James walked into the cafe wearing his red MAGA hat, expecting nothing more than a quiet coffee. Instead, he faced judgment, confrontation, and whispers behind his back until one selfless act changed everything and left everyone in the room speechless. Comments below, where are you watching from? And if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel, Life Inspirational and Motivational Tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories. Let's start the story. James walked into the bustling cafe, his favorite spot to grab a coffee and work on his latest project. The chatter of patrons and the clinking of cups filled the air. But the moment James entered, conversations seemed to falter, heads turned, and eyes locked on the bright red hat perched on his head. The MAGA hat, with its bold text proclaiming, "Make America Great Again," was a lightning rod for reactions, and James was no stranger to it. He could feel the judgment in the room, the unspoken words behind the stares. A group near the counter exchanged whispers, their sideways glances unmistakable. A barista, who was usually friendly, served him with a tight smile that barely concealed her disdain. James, however, maintained his composure. This wasn't the first time he had faced this kind of treatment, and it likely wouldn't be the last. He refused to let it rattle him. Taking his coffee, he settled at a corner table, pulling out his laptop and diving into his work. James wasn't just any ordinary man. He was a veteran who had served his country with pride. The hat wasn't just a political statement for him. It was a symbol of his belief in the nation's potential, a reminder of the values he had fought to uphold. Yet he rarely explained this to anyone. He believed actions spoke louder than words. The cafe grew quieter when the doors swung open again. A woman entered, her presence commanding attention. She was dressed sharply, exuding confidence. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on James. Her expression hardened as she noticed the hat. Without hesitation, she approached his table, her steps deliberate. "Excuse me," she said sharply, "do you really think wearing that hat here is appropriate? People find it offensive, you know." James looked up from his screen, meeting her gaze calmly. "I'm sorry if it bothers you," he said, his voice steady, "but I'm just here to have my coffee and work." She crossed her arms, her tone growing more confrontational. "That hat stands for everything wrong with this country. Do you even know how it makes people feel?" James closed his laptop and leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. "I understand that people have different perspectives, but this hat, for me, represents hope for a better future, one where we can all find common ground. I don't wear it to provoke anyone." The woman scoffed, clearly unconvinced. Others in the cafe were now watching the exchange, some visibly uncomfortable. James took a sip of his coffee, maintaining his composure. "I've fought for this country," he said quietly. "I've seen firsthand what division looks like, and I've seen what unity can achieve. This hat reminds me of the potential we have if we focus on what unites us." The woman hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by his calm demeanor. Before she could respond, an older man seated nearby stood up and approached the table. He placed a hand on the woman's shoulder, his face kind but firm. "Ma'am, I think you should listen to the man. You don't know his story, and it's not fair to judge him from wearing, a hat." The woman looked between James and the older man, her expression softening slightly. She muttered something under her breath before turning and walking away. The tension in the cafe dissipated as conversations resumed, but James noticed a few people giving him nods of respect. He nodded back, grateful for the silent acknowledgement. As the day went on, James couldn't shake the encounter from his mind. It wasn't the first time someone had confronted him, and he knew it wouldn't be the last. But what troubled him wasn't the criticism. It was the unwillingness to understand. People were so quick to judge based on appearances or assumptions, never taking the time to look deeper. Later that evening, James headed to a nearby community center. He had been volunteering there for years, mentoring young adults and helping them find direction in their lives. The center was a haven for those who needed guidance, a place where backgrounds and beliefs didn't matter. James had seen countless lives transformed there, and it was one of the things that gave him hope for the future. As he walked into the main hall, he was greeted warmly by the staff and participants. The hat was still on his head, but here no one seemed to care. They knew him for his actions, not his attire. James spent the evening helping a group of teenagers work on a project for a local charity event. They laughed and shared ideas, their energy infectious. At the end of the night, one of the teenagers, a boy named Marcus, approached him. "Mr. James," he said, hesitating, "can I ask you something?" James smiled. "Of course, Marcus. What's on your mind?" Marcus glanced at the hat before looking back at James. "That hat? People say it's a bad thing. But you're one of the kindest people I know. Why do you wear it?" James crouched slightly to meet Marcus at eye level. "It's not about the hat, Marcus. It's about what it means to me." Clenching his teeth, James crouched slightly to meet Marcus at eye level. "Please stop before entering. It's to defend with all you have and make sure no harm is done. Please stop before entering. Please stop making mistakes. I know at least one person, when they see this, it will repress every emotion. What really matters is how we treat each other." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I get it. I think people should look at what someone does, not just what they wear." James patted him on the shoulder. "You're wise beyond your years, Marcus. Never forget that." The following week, James attended a town hall meeting. He had been invited to speak about his experiences as a veteran and his work in the community. As he stood at the podium, his hat still perched on his head, he could see a mix of reactions in the crowd. Some smiled warmly, while others looked skeptical. He began by sharing stories from his time in the military, painting vivid pictures of the challenges and camaraderie he had experienced. He spoke about the sacrifices made by people from all walks of life, united by a common purpose. Then, he shifted to his work at the community center, highlighting the importance of coming together to support one another. "It's easy to judge someone based on a hat or a bumper sticker," he said, his voice steady. "But if we take the time to understand each other, to see past the surface, we might find that we have more in common than we think. We can disagree and still respect one another. That's the America I believe in." The room was silent for a moment before applause broke out. Even those who had been skeptical at first joined in, moved by his sincerity. After the event, several people approached him to shake his hand and thank him for his words. One of them was the woman from the cafe. She looked nervous as she extended her hand. "Mr. James," she said, her voice quiet, "I want to apologize for how I treated you the other day. I didn't understand. Thank you for reminding me to look deeper." James shook her hand, his expression warm. "Thank you for being open to understanding. That's all I could ever ask." From that day forward, the woman became one of the most active supporters of James's work at the community center. She often shared her story with others, urging them to look beyond appearances and focus on actions. For James, it wasn't about changing everyone's mind or convincing them to agree with him. It was about showing through his actions that respect and understanding could bridge even the deepest divides. The hat might have been a symbol, but it was his deeds that truly spoke for him. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Have you ever been judged for how you look or what you believe in? Share your story in the comments below and inspire others with your journey of resilience and understanding. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that challenge perspectives and bring people together.